What's going on, my eaters? It's your boy Chef Drew, aka Chef, aka Big Drew, aka we chefing. Y'all, we talking about knives today. But before we get into that, please make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that you need to do to help us continue to bring you this great content. Let's get into this. All right, y'all, so when we were thinking about this week's episode, my boy Andy reminded me we started a fundamental series several episodes ago. Forgive me for slacking. Not really slacking, but you know, when you make content and you gotta continue to bring new stuff, sometimes you forget about things. But Andy reminded me fundamentals of cooking. In the last video, what's it say? Level up your culinary skills was the last episode, and in that video we talked about cooking methods. If you're gonna cook, cooking methods. We talked about dry, we talked about moist, we talked about combination, and what all of those entail. In this video, to continue to build this house on a good foundation, to help you really learn how to cook and level up your culinary skills, we are going to talk about knives, y'all. As a chef, my knives, Gwen's knives, they're the tools of our trade. We can't do what we do without them. We can't feed you without them. You can't feed people. Whether you're a professional chef or not, you can't feed people without knives. Usually you can't eat without knives. Some people do, but knives should be around. So today I just wanted to take a minute, let you come into one of our chef roles, let you see what we got in here, and yeah, help you in this way. So let's get started. Now listen, y'all, I'm just gonna start by saying this. I'm gonna put this over for a second. If you consider yourself someone who cooks, you have your own place, and regular cooking of food takes place at home with you, it is my belief, and Gwen's belief, that everybody should have a decent set of knives. Can they be a little expensive? A little bit, but you don't typically buy them all at the same time. And if you buy good knives and take care of them, it's a very strong possibility you shouldn't have to buy them again, or if you do, you shouldn't have to buy them for a very long time, which means they really don't cost that much. For Gwen and I, we only buy good knives. It just makes sense. Our whole world is cooking. We cook at work, we cook at home. She does it, I do it. We're only gonna have good knives. When I say good knives, what do I mean? Sorry for those of y'all who bought the nice cute blocks at Ross or Kohl's or anywhere, Walmart, Target. I'm not, listen, I got block knives. We've all had them. We don't all start here. But y'all, now we're trying to level up your culinary skills. And so we got to spend a little bit more money. We got to look some different places. And here's the bottom line, y'all. The more money you spend on your knives, typically, the better quality knife you're going to get. Who's ever had a knife? You go buy a knife from Walmart, you're using it 1, 2, 3 years later, you're using it, chopping some carrots, peeling something, chopping some meat up, and then boop, your handle break off. Anyone ever had a handle break off or seen a handle break off? How about seeing a blade break or chip real easily? Or here's one. You ever get a knife, take it out the box or take it out of its nice new block, use it a couple times, and then the daggone knife don't cut nothing? That ever happened to you? Yeah. These are all the reasons, y'all, we buy good knives, okay? Because when you buy good knives, they last. They're made from better material, which means the blade stays sharper longer or can get sharper easier. So we buy good knives. For Gwen and I, we ain't getting paid for this endorsement. The most, I feel like, readily available quality knife that won't totally break the bank that's out there are shuns. Now listen, in the knife world, I'll just go ahead and say this real quick. People have all sorts of beliefs. There's some people who only like Asian or Japanese knives. There's some people who only like European knives. And of course, you know, here in America, we got those folks that say only American made. However you cut your cake, just make sure it's a quality knife. Me and Gwen, we like Asian knives. We just personally feel like the reason we like Japanese knives is because of the tradition. The Japanese people literally have whole villages, whole cities and towns where everyone in the city, or a large majority of them, I don't want to misspeak, but a lot of people in these cities, regions, areas, all they do, morning to night, from then till now, is make knives. You can't negate that kind of mastery and skill. I feel like we've used Western knives, we've used American knives, and we've used the Japanese knives. They're all good. They'll all get the job done, but there's just something about holding a good Japanese knives. That's what we love. So this is our knife roll. Every chef's knife roll looks different. Sometimes they're toolboxes, sometimes they're leather, sometimes they're canvas like this. This came with our knives, so we just ran with it. We bought so many knives at this particular time. This day, I think we bought like 3 or 4 knives all at once, and so they threw in the knife roll. You open your knife roll. Typically, they got some kind of organization here, thermometers, pens, things like that. In here, Gwen has some scissors, a little notebook, a cutting glove. Listen, before we get into this, some people recommend cutting gloves, y'all. I don't ever use them, but it's just an add a layer. It's good to have one. They make them like this and this, like, I don't even know what kind of material this is. Kevlar, thick cotton, something stuff. But then they also make them out of steel. If you're scared about cutting yourself, just worth mentioning. Most knife kits always have some kind of scissors. Like I said, here's some pens. I digress. Knife roll, so we're gonna open it up. And I'm gonna let you know what we see in here. Usually any knife kit, you're gonna find different types of knives and tools. There's different knives for different purposes. That's why there's a variety when you go into a knife kit. In this particular knife kit of ours, we got a few knives that we use day to day. I'll walk you through some of them and just give you my thoughts and things. This is not a knife, but it's a useful tool. This is called a microplane. This, if y'all have never used them, this is for zesting citrus. That's what we used it for. Some people shave chocolate with it. Occasionally you can maybe, even if you're trying to get some fine, on this one, you're trying to get like some fine carrot mush or shavings or something like that, you can use for that. But mainly zesting citrus, shaving chocolate, microplane. Everybody should have one of these. You don't use them all the time, but when you need one, they're great to have around. Next, we have a steel. This is what you use not to sharpen your knife, but to realign the burr, to realign the edge of your knife and hone it and make it more sharp after using it. And you know, for those of you who don't know, real quick, you do that a few times before you use your knife, in between uses, and the friction helps let your blade be what you need it to be. Why is that important? Before I get into this knife, remember this. Chef Drew says it. Sharp knives are safe knives. Sharp knives are safe knives. You've ever been in the kitchen and cut the dog mess out of your finger and it made an absolute mess? 9 times out of 10, when it happens like that, you were working with a dull knife. Or you were using a knife incorrectly, which people do. We'll talk about that later. So you always want to have a honing steel. Some people also use a leather strop. This, once you have your edge on your knife, this honing steel or the strop are what help you keep your edge sharp and straight while you're using in between uses. Always want to have these, especially with good knives. So now we'll start going through this kit. This knife is a knife that's used for vegetables primarily. It's called a nakiri, maybe even fruit. It's a Japanese style knife. I love these knives, y'all. They just feel good in your hand and they always get the job done. You don't want to use this to really hack up meat or anything like this. This is strictly a produce knife. Maybe if you have to, if it's the only thing that's there and you have to slice or cut some raw meat or something, you could use it. But a nakiri used to cut produce. If you notice on this knife, if you ever see these little slots on the side of a blade, you'll see knives sometimes that have these grooves or slots on the side of the blade, on the face of the blade. What those do is create little pockets. So when you're slicing carrots or apples or whatever, you ever been slicing something and it sticks to your blade and it's annoying and won't get off? Those pockets help those things slide off easily so you can keep working. Just so you know, this is one type of vegetable knife. There's other kinds. If you have a Western style knife or something like that, they can look a little different. It's always important to know the purposes of your knives. This is a paring knife. Smaller. These knives are used for more detailed work, peeling. You see people peel with them. Sometimes I'll use a paring knife so it can kind of become part of my hand, and I'll use it if I'm chiffonading or cutting up some herbs. This can also be used a lot in detail work. People who do garde-manger or like cold food chefing, they'll use these to make fruit bowls and make their stuff look real pretty just because they're smaller, more compact than points, help with detail. Paring knife. Again, they have all different types of paring knives. Now this, whenever you see a knife with the teeth on it, this is called a serrated knife. We use these knives for slicing, carving. That's what it's for, slicing and carving. When you see the teeth, these are great for bread, cakes, slicing, carving. The teeth help you cut through things that may be a little bit more fragile or delicate, like tomatoes, a ripe tomato, soft bread, soft cake pie, serrated knives. The other cool thing about a serrated knife, especially if you're using it for like a cake or a pie or something, or to carve like a brisket or a turkey or something of that nature, they're usually much longer. And these can also be used to help the tips are not pointy usually or fully pointed like some of these other knives. So you can use these to help get a slice of pie out of a pie pin or a quiche out of a quiche pin. But also they're longer, and so they help you slice through larger loaves of bread like sourdough breads and things, or like briskets or pork shoulders or lamb legs or things like that. Serrated knife, great knife. They're also really good. I like to use them on soft tomatoes. Then, the pride and joy of any chef's toolkit, their workhorses, their chef's knives. Like An honorable mention too, I told you, we only use good brands. So let me talk about this because Gwen has a couple brands in her knife roll, and you have that. You have some people who are real kind of bougie like me. I like all my knives to match, but that's changing. But typically, I like all my knives to be the same manufacturer. You have some people, they have different knives from different places for different things. Gwen is kind of a hybrid of this. Most of this is Shun. This knife, the serrated knife that you saw we had, this is a superior brand. Y'all, I ain't gonna lie, this is a high quality, just mass produced brand. I think we get these from like US Foods or Cisco. They're good stuff though. You have some of the bad stuff like the white handled plastic dingy knives, you know what I'm talking about. But one reason we like Superior is when you feel them, they feel heavier. I just looked at this knife. It's made by Superior, but this was Gwen's serrated knife she got from Johnson & Wales University from Culinary School. So Gwen's been cooking with this serrated knife right here for almost 20 years. When you're in culinary school, at least where we went to Johnson & Wales, they give you a knife kit. Something to show you to know about the versatility of a serrated knife. This was in Gwen's knife kit, and Gwen was in the baking and pastry program. In the baking and pastry program, they give them a whole bunch of baking and pastry stuff, but they did put a serrated knife in their kit. So if that tells you anything, serrated knives are good for cutting bread and cakes and pies and things of that nature. I digress. So we have a Superior knife. This is probably the most affordable knife here. Then the Shuns. And then this is a Misono. This is a traditional Japanese knife from Asia. There's only a few people in this country where you can order these type of knives from. If you're interested, we get these from Korin Trading. You can look them up, Korin with a K, K-O-R-I-N. This is a Misono Western style Japanese knife. That's a whole nother thing, but just know. The reason why we like these, they feel good in your hand. Gwen has small hands, they're lighter. But with the Shuns and these, the steel is really good. So the blade gets really sharp and it stays sharp for a long time, especially if you hone it and strop it. But I digressed a little bit. But like I said, this is the workhorse of any chef's kit. It's a chef's knife. They have different types, different lengths. But these are the knives you see on TV. These are the knives that you use all day, every day. They're very versatile. They can do many, many different things. You can use these. I know I talked about some niche knives, but everything I talked about, maybe except for the serrated, you could use this knife for as well. We use these knives to cut up vegetables. I use these knives to break up poultry, chicken. I use these knives to debone. I use these knives to fillet. A chef's knife, a good chef's knife. If you don't have anything else, have a good chef's knife in your arsenal. If you have to start with something, start with a good chef's knife, because this is gonna be the knife you're gonna use 9 times out of 10 while you're in your kitchen producing food. That's what a knife kit could look like. Like I said, sometimes people's knife kits have more, sometimes they have less, sometimes people have multiple sets. Gwen and I, we have a lot of different knives, so we could probably put together 2 or 3 of these kits. Most of our knives are gonna be Shun and Misono. Let me tell you about the knife a little bit. When you have a knife, this red thing or these different color things, these are called sheaths. These things are to keep you safe, protect you, protect your knives. You don't want to just put a bunch of knives in your daggone knife kit and then open it and cut something. When you have your knife, you have the heel of the knife, the point of the knife. This is the edge, spine, face of the knife. And here's your handle. Every knife is gonna have those components in some degree. As you're shopping for knives, the things you want to take into consideration for your kitchen, especially if you don't want to have to be buying these things a whole bunch. You want to take into consideration the way these knives feel in your hand. What does the knife feel like? For me, I can use these knives, but I'm a bigger guy. My whole frame, everything is bigger than Gwen. So I prefer a chef's knife that is a little bit longer. Also, because I do a lot of barbecue and I'm dealing with like a lot of big cuts of meat and things like that, the longer chef's knife suits me awesome. So the length of the blade, the type of the knife you want. If you really, really get into it, some people get into what kind of steel is used, the types of different handles. As you see, this handle has some rivets with a butt here, whereas these handles do not have a rivet, but they're fatter. I like that ergonomics of a shun. But yeah, you want to keep those things in consideration when you're talking about knives. The sheaths for safety, and then the different components of the blades themselves. Up-leveling your culinary skills. We talked to you about cooking methods. Next thing you need to know is you need to have some good knives. Once you invest in good knives and you learn what that looks like, you can YouTube all of this stuff. You can Google all of this stuff. We might even put a link in this video to a great video that I found to show you how to maintain your knives once you get them. But in any case, cooking methods we showed you. Next step, y'all, is go get you some good knives, even if you just start with one. I can tell you the cheapest knife in this, aside from the serrated knife, and that knife cost $30,000 a year, by the way, because that was a Johnson & Wales knife, but we won't talk about that. The cheapest knife in here is probably $100. The most expensive knife in here is probably like $300 or $400. Again, you don't buy those all at once. Typically, you buy them. What happens typically is you buy a good knife, you learn to love it so much, next thing you know, you find yourself buying another good one, then another good one. Have good knives, y'all. Well, I hope this did something for you. I know it could have been a little bit mundane, but the bottom line is, y'all, there's a knife for everything. If you call yourself a chef, or if you call yourself someone who likes cooking and takes it seriously, go get you some good knives, put them in your kitchen. You won't have to buy them again. Invest in them, learn how to use them, keep them sharp. The reason you want to use your sharpening stone and to keep your knives sharp is you want to make sure your knives stay safe. Sharp knives are safe knives. If your knife is not sharp, that's where you get the ugly cuts. If your knife is sharp, it might still be a nasty cut, but those are the cuts that happen real quick, and then you'd be like, oh, I cut the tip of my finger off. You don't even know because it just went away so fast. I don't want you to cut your fingers off. We'll talk about real knife skills, how to cut different cuts, things like that in the following video. But y'all, for now, as we build your culinary skills with you, make sure you go learn all the cooking methods and now purchase you some good knives. Y'all, until next time, please, 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 always remember our purpose for the Eating Chambers channel is to only excite you, empower you, educate you into the business and the life that you want for yourself. Thank you so much for being here with us. Please remember to like, subscribe, do all the things so we can keep bringing you this great content. And go check out my brother and my homeboy Chuck on their podcast, Last Night's Coffee with Chuck and John. Great guys, great content, available on all podcast platforms. Till next time, y'all, we are gone.